Every country teaches its people that wealth belongs to the nation. Every government claims it protects the interests of the many. Every era insists its prosperity is earned, fair, stable, and secure. And every time, history proves the same thing. Wealth is never truly owned by the people. It is controlled by the few who design the system, write the rules, and stay standing long after the collapse wipes everyone else out. The real question has never been who creates wealth. The real question is who captures it after it's created. Because the richest people in history were never the ones who worked the hardest. They were the ones who built the machine everybody else worked inside of. From ancient kings to modern bankers, from empires of land to empires of data, the pattern is painfully consistent. A small group controls the resources, the labor, the currency, the debt, the laws, the narrative, and the rest of society is told to be grateful for whatever is left over. We don't live in an age of freedom. We live in an age of elegant control, not slavery by chains, but slavery by dependence, not conquest with swords, but conquest with contracts, not wealth earned through production, but wealth harvested from those who produce. And if you zoom out far enough, you see that every civilization had a ruling class that convinced the masses that the system was natural, fair, moral, or patriotic, right up until the moment it wasn't. The first ruling class in history didn't control people with money, they controlled them with food. Ancient empires like Egypt, Sumer, and Babylon didn't just build monuments, they built storage systems. Whoever controlled the grain controlled life itself. Pharaohs weren't gods because they built pyramids. They were gods because they controlled survival. That was the first blueprint of true wealth. Don't own the people, own what they must obey. The same formula evolved in every empire that followed. Rome took land, then taxed it. Medieval kings seized territory, then leased it. The church claimed the heavens, then charged for access to salvation. Every age has its version of control, but the core never changes. The richest don't create the most, they control the most. Then something revolutionary happened. Wealth shifted from what you could grow to what you could lend. The rise of banking created a new elite, not warriors, not priests, but financiers. The Medici didn't conquer with armies, they conquered with balance sheets. Kings couldn't win wars without money, and money no longer meant gold in a chest. It meant credit. A promise backed not by metal, but by the future labor of an entire nation. Whoever controlled credit controlled governments. Whoever controlled governments controlled laws. And whoever controlled laws controlled everyone forced to obey them. That was the second great transformation of wealth, from physical power to financial power. By the 1700s, wealth escaped borders entirely. The world entered the age of corporate empire. The British East India Company wasn't just a business. It was an army, a navy, a government, and a wealth extraction machine. It didn't negotiate with countries. It absorbed them. A private company once controlled more people than any king in Europe. That's when the real nature of wealth became undeniable. It doesn't need flags, it doesn't need crowns. It only needs permission and the ability to buy it. After that, nations were no longer the highest authority. They were stage props. The real power was the network behind them. Financiers, dynasties, merchant elites, and private capital working above any single government. The Industrial Revolution didn't end that system. It upgraded it. Factories replaced farms, workers replaced peasants, wages replaced harvest shares. But the hierarchy stayed exactly the same. Those who owned the machines controlled the workers, and those who controlled the workers controlled the future. The owners didn't get rich by working. They got rich by making sure everyone else had to. That is when the illusion of fairness was born. Work hard and you will rise, a comforting myth that hid the real rule. If you control the tools of production, you control the people who depend on them to live. Then came the next shift. The most powerful one of all, money itself stopped being something you held and became something someone else issued. Gold was replaced by paper. Paper was replaced by policy. Policy was replaced by debt, and debt became the new chain around the world's neck. When a nation borrows, it does not borrow from its people. It borrows against them. It mortgages the future of millions for the decisions of a few. And the lender doesn't need an army to enforce obedience, only interest. That is how modern wealth is controlled, not through violence but through obligation, not with whips but with digits, not by owning people but by owning their debt, their currency, their contracts, their savings, their pensions, their mortgages, their education, their economy, their time. Modern citizens are not ruled by kings. They are ruled by interest rates, inflation, liquidity, and markets they do not understand and cannot vote for. And yet, while the masses live inside this system, the true elite live outside it. The wealthiest families do not keep their money in the currencies that inflate. They keep it in land, energy, companies, rare assets, and influence. The biggest corporations don't pay taxes. They hire the people who write tax codes. The largest investment funds don't obey nations. Nations obey them. When a government collapses, the citizens lose everything. The ruling class loses nothing, because they were never inside the collapse to begin with. This is the secret every empire teaches, but no school explains. The ruling elite never tie their survival to the same system they control. That's why every historical collapse, from Rome to France, from the Qing dynasty to the Soviet Union, destroys the poor first, the middle class second, and the elite never. Because the elite are not citizens of countries, they are citizens of wealth. Today's rulers don't wear crowns. They run central banks, global investment firms, sovereign wealth funds, and multinational corporations. They don't need to own governments. They lease them. They don't need to command armies. They fund them. They don't need to censor media. They buy the platforms. They don't need to convince the public. They distract it, divide it, entertain it, anesthetize it, and drown it in noise. Modern control doesn't silence you. It makes your voice irrelevant. And the greatest trick ever pulled was convincing the public that democracy distributes power, when in reality, it only distributes blame. You're allowed to vote for politicians, but not for the people who finance them. You're allowed to choose presidents, but not central bankers. You're allowed to work in the economy, but not design it. The real rulers of wealth are unelected, unaccountable, untouchable, and immortal. Not because they live forever, but because their assets, trusts, foundations, and networks do. So who really controls the world's wealth? Not the wage earner, not the small business owner, not even the millionaire. Wealth is controlled by those who control the issuance of currency, the flow of credit, the movement of resources, and the rules that decide who wins before the game begins. Wealth is controlled by those who profit whether markets rise or fall. Wealth is controlled by those who lend to nations, not those who vote in them. Wealth is controlled by those who build systems of dependence, not those who live inside them. The world is not divided by rich and poor. It is divided by owners and participants, by architects and occupants, by those who write the rules and those who are ruled by them. And that divide has existed since the first empire stored the first grain, issued the first loan, built the first factory, printed the first currency, and convinced the first population to trust a system that was never designed for them. The irony is brutal. The masses believe they live in an economy, but they actually live in someone else's strategy. They work in it. They borrow in it. They save in it. They panic in it. But they do not control it. And the longer the illusion survives, the more total the control becomes. So what is the lesson? The same one history has screamed for 5,000 years. If you don't own anything the system cannot take, you don't own anything at all. If your wealth depends on the stability of a currency, a bank, a market, or a government, it isn't wealth. It's a placeholder waiting to be erased. Survivors are not the most loyal. They are the most independent. They do not trust systems. They use them. They do not worship money. They understand the machinery behind it. They do not believe wealth is distributed. They know it is extracted. The question is not whether the system is fair. It has never been fair. The question is whether you will stay inside it as a believer or step outside it as a builder. Because every collapse throughout history has done the same thing, transferred wealth from the trusting to the prepared, from the dependent to the sovereign, from the many who labored to the few who owned. And the greatest danger of the modern world is not poverty. It is believing that the system that governs your life is neutral, honest, or permanent. It is not. It is designed, maintained, and defended by those who benefit from it the most. And they are not the ones casting ballots, clocking in, or hoping for a raise. They are the ones who already know the final rule of wealth. Power is not in earning money. Power is in controlling the world that earns it for you. If this changed how you see the world, then you already know the truth. Wealth isn't what's in your bank account. It's what you control when the bank no longer matters.